Okay everybody, this is what we're painting today on this video. I have titled this Merry Christmas to All. Love painting winter scenes and love glamming it up with my glamour dust. Bling, bling, bling. Oh, so much fun. I can't wait to paint it with you guys. Let's get started. Okay, so I've applied one coat of multi-purpose sealer and let that dry. And now I'm applying my second coat of Deep Midnight Blue with 2-inch foam roller here. We can do this very, very quickly. You want to have a spritzing bottle. I really need one today because it is so hot here. My studio is so incredibly hot. So on your palette, I'm going to go ahead and stick this roller in the water so it doesn't dry out. You want to have this base color, Deep Midnight Blue, just a little bit of it, and Desert Turquoise. And you want to have a stippling sponge of some kind, whatever kind of sponge you like to use. And I'm going to pick up the Desert Turquoise. And while this is wet, I've got that base color in there so that I can pick up some more wet paint if I need it. But while this is wet, I am going to start stippling this on here in the center and kind of let it fade away as it goes out to the edges. And we can take just the damp side of the sponge and kind of help that fade away. We're going to cover the whole area, but we want to keep the majority of the color in the center. So if you feel like your color is getting too far out, we don't care about the top up there. We're going to be painting the topper up there. So we're getting a very pretty stippling effect on the background. So just continue here. I'm going to add a little bit more of that in the middle. And everything is pretty wet here, so I'm going to flip over to this side where I don't have as much paint and start kind of wiggling and blending, especially along this outer edge out here. And tap that down a little bit in the center, a little bit more. And lift it up so we get the glare of the dampness off of it. So you see how we're getting just this beautiful mottled background back here. And when it dries, the blue, the turquoise will lighten up quite a bit and it will be faded kind of down in there, but oh my gosh, the background is going to be just absolutely gorgeous. So that's how we create this beautiful background. We need a little bit more paint over here. So you want to let it dry completely, and then we'll get our lines transferred on. You want to transfer on the moon and the snowman, the shape of the snowman. You don't have to add all of his details. You'll need the scarf and the hat, but leave the facial features and the buttons and the arms off. And then just some lines where you want to have your trees in here. And that's all you really need to transfer on. Alright, so I'm going to get out of this so I don't start lifting it. It's starting to get a little bit tacky. Get it dry and we'll come back and start going on this. I can't wait. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. Alright, my pattern lines are on. Basic pattern lines, just of the snowman and the moon. Kind of some placement for some trees, and then we kind of need to know where our horizon line is. So I've put 2 coats of moon yellow on my moon and my topper up here. And then our snowman, the scarf is 2 coats of Santa red, and the snowman is 2 coats of winter blue. So these are all the colors that I have used so far, just these 3 colors, besides what we used in the background. Okay, so for our topper up here, I just want to go ahead and put some color on this so it can be drying. We can add some detail later. I'm going to use some metallic paint, Emperor's Gold. And we're just going to brush a little bit of that over that topper. and let it dry, and then we'll come back and add some detail on here. Cannot have a Christmas ornament without having some bling on it. Well, I guess you could if you're making like country style ornaments. They wouldn't necessarily have bling on them, but if you're making ornaments or Christmas scenes with me, it's gonna be blinged up. So just a quick coat of that. We're gonna let it dry. I'll come back and apply a second coat. So we want to go to our, while that's drying, we want to go into our moon. So I'm going to get some Snow White out. Snow White. It's also called titanium white, but it's in parentheses, so I go by the Snow White. Some people go by titanium, so whatever you want to go by, it's Snow White or titanium white. So I want to dampen in my moon here. And then I'm just going to tip the corner of my brush into some of that white. Working into my brush just a little bit on that corner. It's only on that one little edge there. And then I'm just going to begin tapping this into my moon. Letting that water, or the water will really help it fade down in there and disperse, and then we can come back and add some more on top of it. Get a lot of little fun stuff going on with this moon here. Just a little pitty patting. Pitty pitty patting. Okay, so while I let that dry, because it's pretty wet, why don't we go over here on our snowman and add a little bit of highlight on him. So I'm going to take some, actually we'll do some shading first, I think. So let's go with some, we could go with deep midnight blue because that's in our background, but I think it might be just a tad dark. Maybe if we add some white to it, so let's see how that's going to go. Okay, so I'm going to take my deep midnight blue, I'm going to tip my brush into it and add a little bit of white to lighten that up. So it's equal amounts basically. And we're going to begin shading on this little guy with this color. This will make a nice shading color, I think. I'm going to go around his scarf. Try and stay off of that scarf. That's a V, so we go up into it and then round it out. We're adding some tassels there, but we can have a little bit of shading underneath that. We're going to go right here. Push that in there, that's a V, so then we're going to round it out. And we'll come back and repeat because that's not going to be very dark enough. Especially through here, we're going to need that to be a little bit dark. Alright, let's go underneath the hat here. And around this little corner here, kind of round that out. And we'll let that dry. That's our first little shading on there. And we're going to come back and deepen that. Let's go back up to our moon. It's dry. So let's dampen it. And we're going to get some antique gold out now. Put some dark color in there. So just kind of working around in here, kind of like we did the white. So if we want to put some of this out on the edges. Start giving the moon a little bit more shape. What a fun moon! We're going to be adding some bright yellows in here in a minute. I'm going to bring this up on the bottom a little bit. Keep water spritzed on your palette. That way you can load up your brush with some water on the water side, not the paint side. And then work it into your brush just like you do your paint. I'm going to finish going around the moon. Then I'm going to redampen the center, I think. And put some of this color back in the center. Oh, that's looking like a fun moon. So let me put just a little bit of water in the center. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to double load my brush because I want some of that white back in there. I'm going to double load into my white and my antique gold. Just kind of work them into my brush. I don't really want to blend them. I just want them to be individually on the brush. So then I can lay down some white and lay down some gold. Not necessarily on top of each other. Just whichever side you're wanting to lay some of it down, just kind of tilt the brush to that side. So tilt to the white and tap some on, tilt to the antique gold, and when you feel like you're running out, just go load a little bit more. A little bit more white in my brush. I don't have hardly any water in my brush. This is mostly just the paint. I'm going to smooth some of this out. Carry the white just a little bit more. I feel like it needs to be spread out a little bit more. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to go around with the antique gold around the outside edge one more time. Okay, get a little water in my brush here. And we'll just darken a little bit. Just a little bit out here on this outer circular edge here. You shouldn't need a whole lot. And now I want to brighten up the yellow because I want the moon to be a little bit more bright. So I'm going to try some yellow light. I hope this is not a discontinued color. Yellow light. If it is, you can use cad yellow or any kind of bright yellow, lemon yellow. But you want it to be kind of transparent. So this is a pretty transparent color. My brush is wet, so I just loaded a little bit of the yellow, the bright yellow, onto my brush, and now I'm just brushing it over my moon. I want my moon to be pretty bright. Oh, that looks really good. Really pretty. Super pretty. Now we're going to let that dry. And I see I missed a little area over here. It's on there. And kind of hold it up to the light and see any places you might have missed putting that yellow light on there. Oh, so pretty. And if you feel like it took your white down too much, when it dries, you can come back in and add a little bit of white. I'm going to wait to do that. I want to see how it looks here in a little bit. I might add just a tiny bit of white back in there, but right now I'm really liking how it looks. Okay, let's shade a little bit more on our snowman here. It's that mix of deep midnight blue and white. More. Didn't think I had equal amounts there, so let me re-blend it here. Deep midnight blue and snow white. Around that, come down, grab me a mop brush and very gently mop that. Dry mop brush. Clean it on a wet spot on your paper towel and dry it on a dry spot. Now this is going to be the dark or the shadow side of the snowman, so we're going to come and shade that whole edge over there. I'm going to very gently mop that. We'll probably have to repeat that, but we'll see after we get our highlight on it. It may show up just fine. So out here on this edge, we're going to make mostly dark out here. We'll bring it down here a little bit. And just begin darkening this bottom edge. We'll have to repeat that bottom edge there. A little bit more here. A little bit of water in my brush. Work it in to my brush. Same as I do my paint. And then make sure this is dry before you come back and apply a second coat, because if it's not dry, you'll just remove what you put on there. So I think that's going to be a good start right there. And let me get a little bit right up here. Get it off my scarf. I can touch that up though. Okay, that's a nice shading for our snowman. We're going to get ready to do some snow in the background, then we're going to highlight on him. Okay, let me wide angle out just a little bit. Now I'm going to take a much larger brush. Now this is a 3/4 inch flat. This is a Royal brand, but you can use whatever brush that you have. We're going to start adding a little bit of our snow in here. So we can add it in layers. Can't get my paint to come out. There we go. We're going to start with winter blue, which is what we based in the snowman with. And we're just going to, let me bring my palette into focus here. We're going to load on one side of this flat brush some of this winter blue. You want paint and water in your brush. So we've got our horizon line drawn in here, so we're just going to begin kind of laying it in. Let's go underneath our moon. If you don't have enough water in your brush, you're not going to be able to get your snow to look like you want it to look. You're going to have a lot of hard lines for your snow. And then we're just going to bring it down all the way, continuing to load with clean water and this winter blue. And you can leave some, we'll just go right on our snowman because he's that color. And you can leave some gaps in here for some shadowy areas. And don't forget back here, I'm going to do this little heel. I need a tad bit more water. And then we're going to go right here. And this is where I want to be careful on our snowman. A little bit more water. We might want to do this before we start shading and stuff, so if we can brush right up on our snowman, that won't be a problem. And then we got this little bitty hill back here, so I'm just going to go up on the corner and kind of put that hill in. So we've kind of created a little bit of hill, so if you want more hilly stuff going on, just come back in here with a little bit of paint and you can kind of bring some more hills into it. And this paint, because it's such a sheer amount of paint, is removable. So let's say you want maybe something a little bit different in here. So we're going to dampen. And then I'm just going to take a paper towel and kind of rub some of that out of there. And we can make a little bit of a shadowy area in there. We can always come back with our paint and make that dark again. But this is a lot of water in our brush, so we're just laying in some very sheer layers of paint here. And then when we come back and build on top of that, we'll definitely be getting more definition and stuff onto that. So we're going to leave that for now because we want it to get good and dry before we apply another layer of snow on there. Okay, I'm going to transfer on my Santa and reindeer. And you do not have to be perfect about this. You just want to know that it's Santa. And I'm using gray graphite. And don't forget your rope that holds it all together. And you can make your antlers as detailed as you want. Now this one out here, I'm not sure how it will show up. It might show up pretty good if I push hard enough. Okay, there we've got Santa and his reindeer on there. So we want to paint them in. And let's see what color I want to paint them in with. I'm not sure Deep Midnight Blue will be dark enough, but it might. Out here it wouldn't show up. So we're just going to go ahead and use black, I think. I'll be using black on the buttons, so we will be able to carry this color a little bit. So just get a small round brush, something that you can paint very small with. If you want to use a detail liner, you can. Might take a little bit more to paint them in with a detail liner. And we're just going to paint them in with straight black. So just follow your shape. That's Santa. He's waving to the snowman there. And it's just a silhouette, so we don't need to have, don't worry about detail or anything like that, because this is just a silhouette. And when we see it from a distance, it's going to look just like Santa. So stay up on the tip of your brush and outline it, and then just go back and fill it all in. And on the more fine lines, you might want to definitely have a detail brush, but for the Santa and the reindeer, we can use this little bit of a bigger brush. This is a 1 round, so it's not super big. It's a little bit bigger than a detail liner. Let's see, this leg needs some fatness to it. I'm sure my reindeer are not all shaped the same or the same size. But hopefully after I get their legs drawn on here and their antler, they'll definitely look like reindeer. I'm hoping. Fingers crossed. You know me, I'm not an animal painter. This is about as animal detail as I get. That one's a fat. He is definitely a fat reindeer. This one might be just a tad too skinny. Skinny might have been better though. Alright, let me get my detail liner and we will add the legs and the details under the sleigh. So you want to thin your paint down a little bit with some water to get it an inky consistency. So all you do is you dip your brush into some water and come over here and pull a little bit of paint out and add the water to the paint right here. And then it makes it like ink. I've got a pretty long brush here, but you might want to go to a smaller, a shorter brush, but you still want to have a detail liner. So my detail liner is packed away. So I'm going to attempt to use this one, although the bristles are messed up on it. So let me see if I can find another one real quick. Oh, here's one. Let me try this one out and see how it works. It's still a long one, but the other one had a little issue on the tip of it. Up on the very tippy toe of the brush. Alright, how are their legs supposed to look? They just kind of come straight out here. And then the front ones just bend. I'm not doing a very good job of keeping fine lines here. 2 ropes that come along there, and then each one that goes in between. We'll come back and erase any lines that we don't paint over. And then our antlers, and you can make your antlers any way that you want. Like I said, I'm not an animal person, so if you're looking at that going, what kind of antlers are those, then I apologize. I am not an animal painter. So there we go. We have them up there, at least. Let me erase any lines that I didn't paint over, and that will help the look of it a lot. If you used a lot of thick paint, you need to wait till it dries before you do this, or you'll just make a mess on your piece. Get that line. Coming up there. Okay, there is Santa and his reindeer in their silhouette. I love it. It looks so super cool. Alright, let's brighten our snow. We're going to mix Snow White with our winter blue. And I think I'm going to do a 2-to-1 mix. So I'm going to dip into my winter blue, dip into it again, and then dip into Snow White. And this is going to lighten up the color. And we won't have to take it as far if you don't want to. So I'm going to keep this side of the snow a little bit darker. I probably will use this color over there. Grab a little bit more water. We definitely want it to be brighter right through here where the moon will be shining. We'll put a moon glow on the snow. I'm just brush mixing, so you know, if you feel better mixing a large amount of this, then go for it. Get next to our snowman here. And work it all the way down to the bottom. Over here, and we'll add a little bit over here. More water. Oh, no, get this little section back here. Okay, we're going to let that dry. Let's work on our snowman a little bit more. I want to put the little red tuft up there at the top. I forgot to do that. Just a detail liner, just pull some out of the top of the hat. Go ahead and touch up right here, although I'm going to put another layer of white on here, so you know, we can come back and touch up all that color on there that we need to. I want to finish the snow before I go on to anything else, or at least finish it to the point of getting our final layer on there. I want to go up here and work on the topper, I think. So on the topper, we're going to, Let me see if my white pencil will show up on here. Not for you guys, so let me just use a regular pencil. We're going to make some lines down it. Alright, so now on each side of the lines, or I should say on the left side of the lines, let me get some burnt umber out, see if it's going to show up on that gold. That gold's pretty bright. So I'm going to load for a float, which is just a side load. A side load of paint. And we'll put this color down this line. You've got just a little bit of paint, or pretty much straight paint on that one edge. I'm kind of making sure the brush kind of stays tilted up a little bit so that I can get a nice line down there. I want it to go all the way to the bottom. And I'm okay if my lines are not perfectly spaced. But if you want yours perfectly spaced, then measure it and figure out how many lines that you want on there to make them equal distance. That kind of process requires a lot of math. And me and math, I can do it, but you know, we're not the best of friends, so I don't like to get in a fight with math. Pretty good right there. We'll come back and shade the outside edges here in a minute and add our highlights. Okay, let's continue on with our topper here. I'm going to put some of this burnt umber on the outside edges out here. And on this side. And you can bring it in as far as you need to. Definitely have to darken that. I think I'm going to darken my lines just a little bit. So let me load some paint on my brush here. I'm going to go down them again. Burnt umber. It's kind of a transparent color, so doing it again is probably a good idea. And out here on your edges again, make sure that paint is dry that you just put on there though. And we're going to add some highlights on here now. So I've got moon yellow on my palette and some white. I'm going to mix those together and see if I like it. Okay, I'm mixing equal amounts of Emperor's Gold and yellow light. I'm just brush mixing it, so just dip into one, dip into the other, blend them on your brush. And I'm trying this for a highlight. I want to keep that metallic look on there. going to go with some of that yellow and some white. So the first one is Emperor's Gold and Yellow Light, equal mix. Then we take the Yellow Light and Snow White and do equal mixes of that one. I'm just putting this in the middle. You don't necessarily have to go down the whole section of it if you don't want to, but maybe a little bit along the tops. Highlight there. I think we might do the bottom as well. Just doing a little C-stroke to make it look more rounded. A little bit more yellow in the mix there. We might walk that up just a little bit. I'll probably have to go back and do my shading one more time because I kind of covered it up with a little bit of highlight, so that's the burnt umber. Stand up on the toe so I can make this a pretty thin line because I don't want to cover up my highlight, and if I lay it down too flat, I'm going to cover that highlight I put in there. I've pretty much covered up all of my metallic, so I'm going to have to put some more on it. This is just straight white. Just a little bit of it down the center. Tiny little bit. Don't get carried away. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to come put the metallic back on. Okay, the topper looks pretty nice. Now I want to bring out the metallic because once we put the acrylic paint on there, it doesn't have that shine. So I'm going to take my metallic paint and I'm going to mix some water with it to just make a wash of it so it won't take over everything. And we're just going to brush it across. It won't take our highlights away, but it's going to bring our shine back into this for that beautiful metallic look. Very nice. And you can do the back the exact same way. So if you are painting the back of yours as well, then you want to do the topper the same on the back. Okay. I think we're going to do one more layer of the snow, and then our final layer is going to be stippled in. But if we get this layer on, then we can move on to putting our trees in and working on our snowman. So with this layer, we're going to use equal, let's see, we did two winter blue last time. So let's do 2 white and 1 winter blue. And I'm going to start here in the center. And just kind of wash this back and forth down through here. out a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to put some over here, but I'm not going to cover the whole thing this time. We want it a little bit darker out on the outer edges. And then we'll have some around our snowman. We're going to stipple on here, but you've got to get a little bit of highlight on there before we stipple. We're going to put our trees in, so some of this will be covered, and just a little bit out here. So that's got our snow looking pretty nice. I think that's going to be some beautiful snow when we're done. Okay. Okay, now you want to come back and touch up anywhere where you got snow on our snowman. And we are going to, I think we're going to go to our trees next, because I want to finish the trees and do a little bit of stippling of snow, I think. So I've drawn in just a few places where I'm going to put trees. I've got 2 on this side, 1 kind of in the center, and then 2 on this side. Kind of gives us a nice balance on our trees here. So I like to use a filbert brush when I paint in my trees. So let me find one here. And you can use whatever kind of filbert brush that you like to use. And I've got a couple of different ones here. I'm going to try and see which one I'm going to like the best. Alright, we're going to start with some midnight green. And we're going to put our trees in, beginning of our trees with this color. So we want to load our brush with the color. And then we want to, we've got our line here, so we want to start our tree and just kind of paint it down this way. This is going to help guide us for our tree. Okay, then I'm just going to barely tap some at the very top and on the very corner of the brush. Now I'm going to rotate the brush and I'm going to begin tapping very lightly, bringing out some branches, and then coming out farther, developing our tree. It's going to be darkest in the center, and just continue to tap. Oops, something in the paint there. Alright, I always start in the center because that's where I'm going to have it the darkest probably. And then very light pressure. I'm not using a ton of pressure here. Each time you go back and forth across, you want to come out just slightly past where you ended that last branch. Don't come out very far. You're going to have humongous trees. Continue to tap. Alright. Just kind of tap it all right down into that snow. And come back and tap just a little bit more through the center, making it a little bit darker through there. And get our nice lifting paint there because it wasn't quite dry. I mean, it was starting to dry, so then it just started lifting. So there we have a beautiful shape to that tree. That is going to be gorgeous. So let's come over here and we'll do a smaller tree. So we're going to take the very, very chisel edge of the brush. If you don't feel comfortable doing it with the brush, then you can do it with a small round or a detail liner. We're going to paint over it, so okay, I'm going to tap a little bit at the top of it, then very, very light pressure. I'm kind of up on the very edge of the brush here. I'm not laying the whole thing down like this. I've got it tilted on the edge because this is a smaller tree, and so I don't want to get my branches too big too quick. So I'm just going to stay on the edge of the brush there and shape this tree out here. That's way back there. And there we have a cute little tree back there. So just take your time with it. Don't, I'll bring this out just a tiny bit over here on this side. Don't rush it. Just delicate little tapping on there. Let's put one here. Tap a little bit at the top to start the tree. Then on the very edge, barely tapping, barely. The more pressure you give, the bigger your branches will be. But you've got to have your brush loaded up well. Okay, so there's a cute little tree there. And this one I think I'm going to make actually bigger than what I have it. I'm going to bring it down here, I think. I don't want it to be in line with that one, so take some of the paint off so I can get a nice chisel edge. And I'm going to bring this one down here. So we'll see how this works. That might be a little bit too big. Tap a little bit at the top. Now this one, because it's a bigger tree, I can keep my brush like this. I don't have to be on the very side of it. Alright, easy peasy. I don't want this tree to become ginormous. Oops, a little too much paint there. Just kind of back and forth. Now we come back and add our other layers. This will definitely show up a lot better. I think I kind of curved that tree. See if I can straighten him up. Probably not. Well, he'll just have to be a little bit of a curved tree, I guess, because there's no straightening that guy up. Okay. That's a little bit better. Alright, so we've got 4 trees in. Now I'm going to have one right here. I've drawn the line over here, but I think I'm going to move it over. I think I actually want to have it. I want it to start right about here and come down to about there. So it's going to be a decent sized tree, and we may put some ornaments on this one. This one's going to be front and center. Grab a little bit more paint out here. I'm going to wash my brush because the paint in this brush is starting to dry. And the brush that I'm using is a Sharp Moon Filbert, size 8, series 425. It's got a little bit shorter bristles. Normally I use just a standard filbert that has longer bristles. These have a little bit shorter bristles, so it makes it a little bit easier for keeping your tree a little bit more dense. So, alright, let me get some of this water out of my brush. I think my paint needs shook up a little bit more. And we'll make this great big tree in here. Alright. Hopefully I have it drawn in there kind of straight. So I'm going to tap some at the top. Okay. Then I'm going to turn my brush like this And up here, when we want smaller parts of the tree, kind of be more on the edge like we did over here with this one. We want to be a little bit more on the edge of the brush. And as our tree gets bigger as we go down, then we can be more on the full part of the brush. Just tap it on down. I might make it bigger than this. I feel like it needs to be a little bit of a bigger tree, so I'll get it in here first and then I'll determine, because if I try adjusting right now, I'm probably not going to be very happy with how it turns out. Just tap, 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 and then tap a little bit down here. And so I've made that kind of a straight, skinny tree. So I think I'm going to go back in here. Hopefully I won't lift my paint too much. And I'm going to start maybe making it a little bit fatter. Let's get it a little bit darker here in the center. You can also do this with a flat brush, you know, if you feel better doing it that way. I've always just done mine with a filbert, so a bit more back in here. I want to make sure the centers of the trees are dark enough to hold the snow when we're ready to put some snow in there. So, and I think those look pretty good. Let me wide angle out so you can kind of see all of them. Those are cute, cute trees, and they're going to be so beautiful once we put some snow on there with them. Alright, let's start adding a little bit of highlights on our trees. I'm going to mix 2 Deep Midnight Blue with 1 Winter Blue. I've gone down to a smaller brush. This is a size 4. My other one was a size 8. Because I want to do less on these trees. And I loaded my brush and then I wiped it off on my paper towel so I wouldn't lay down a ton of paint. And we're just going to tap in here and try and form the look of some branches in there. I'm kind of staying on the side though, so I won't lay too much down. Leave gaps and stuff so the tree looks like it's actually got limbs on it. Okay. 2 Deep Midnight Blue and 1 Winter Blue. Alright, I'm going to wipe some of that paint out of my brush. I reloaded it. After you reload it, wipe it off so you can get some of that paint off of there. I try to start in the center when I'm going down to the next branch because I know that's where it's okay if I lay the thickest amount of paint. As I get out here, I don't want it to be as heavy. Put some on these limbs out here. They need a little bit. That's looking very pretty. Alright. One more tree here. Load my brush, then wipe it off. And this one I'll probably have to load a couple times because it's a bigger tree. This color is very similar to our background color, so it's probably only going to show up mostly in the center of the tree, but as we add lighter layers on here, load, wipe off. If you're not loading very much paint, you probably don't have to wipe off. But that is looking so pretty. I need to go out and touch a little bit on this one because I didn't quite get it the look that I wanted. But those trees are looking so spectacular. Alright, and that was 2 deep midnight blue and 1 winter blue. Alright, our next layer is going to be with winter blue and snow white. We're going to do an equal mix, so that means just dip into snow white, dip into winter blue, and mix them together. Maybe just slightly darker than that. We might use 2 winter blues. 2 winter blues, 1 snow white. Equal mix will be okay if you're getting a true equal mix. I'll wipe off some of the paint. I want to keep this on the lighter side, so the part of the tree that is closest to the moon, we're going to put this color. Wipe off a little bit more. I think I'm going to have to put just a touch more winter blue in there. So we will do 2 winter blue and 1. So we're putting this on the lightest side of the tree, the side that is catching more of the light. Especially on these smaller trees, when you pick up the paint, go wipe some of it off because you don't want to completely cover up your tree with this lighter color. Alright, this one over here, I'm going to do it on the left side. Just lightly tap. Don't cover up all your other layers. You got to have some shadows in those trees. Okay, so we got a lighter side of that tree. 2 winter blue, 1 white, and then let's do this tree. I'm going to do all of this tree. This is really the dark side from the moon, but we're going to make it so this tree is getting all kinds of yummy brightness. I'm just barely tapping on the brush. I'm not pushing hard on my brush. Look at those trees. I'm going to grab a little bit more of the winter blue. That's too light. That little bit was just a tad too light right there. Ooh, that looks so pretty. I love those trees. Love them. Okay, we're going to add one more bright highlight of just plain snow white on here. So load your brush up with snow white, wipe a little bit off. A little bit of Snow White. Load up. I'm going to wipe my brush off. Preferably on a dry place on your paper towel. And then we're going to come over here and just add some very key. We'll not use very much of this color at all. Bright highlights on here. Tiny little bit. Remember, you're just barely touching that brush down so you don't leave tons of paint. This is straight Snow White. Okay, now our big one here. Remember, don't cover up everything. You got to see all those layers in that tree. And if you feel like you've lost any of your layers, then you can go back in and add some of that back in. I'm really going to have to do something about this tree back here. My darker edge is too, there's too much of a stark line there. Deep midnight. Up just a touch more of the winter blue. That looks better. I think I'll do the same thing over here. I just mixed a little bit more of that deep midnight blue and winter blue, and then added a little bit more of the winter blue in there. I really felt like I was too dark on the dark side there. Okay, those trees look gorgeous. Gorgeous. We'll come back and glaze some of the yellow reflection from the moon on them later. I think we're going to get ready to work on our snowman now. Okay, I've drawn on the lines onto his hat and scarf. And we're going to paint those in with white. We're going to kind of make his hat and scarf and gloves kind of like peppermint. Kind of. With our stripes. So you're just going to use your detail liner and follow down your lines. Your paint will be thinned a little bit with water. Stay up on the tips of the bristles, and when you load your brush, go touch your paper towel before you come to your piece. That way you get the excess off the tip of the brush. Okay, so down here on the scarf, we're going to kind of make it like a backwards 3 so we can kind of give the impression that there's a fold there. When you get more in the front of the snowman, they'll be a little bit straighter, and they'll start curving again. And then these over here will just be a simple stripe. Make your paint inky consistency. Ooh, that's a thick line. Okay, and then we can put a few up here in our little pom-pom on the top. Maybe a little bit inkier paint here. I think I'll come back and add some more red in here, but I want it to be a little bit more loose. I'll add a couple of red ones back in there. Thin the paint to inky consistency. Okay. Then once that's dry, you can erase your lines that you drew on there or put on there. If you put it on with graphite paper, don't erase the lines that shows where that particular Alright, brush your eraser shavings away from your paint. You certainly don't want that in your paint. Okay, and you can make the stripes on the hat thicker if you want the hats and the scarf and the glove. Whatever kind of thickness you like for the stripes in your hat is gonna be just fine. Okay, so we're gonna get ready to do some shading on our hat. Okay, let's begin shading on our hat. We're gonna use cranberry wine to start with. Again, this is a little bit of a transparent color. So we're going to shade along the back side of the hat. And a little bit of that water on my brush. And the back side of the scarf. I'm going to walk it in a little bit. I think I'll walk it just a little bit here. We're going to go next to this edge of the scarf and below here. I know this doesn't show up very much at first. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go along the back left edge. And we'll create a little bit of a crease in here. Back there too. Make it look like it's got a little bit of a fold in it. Okay, so cranberry wine doesn't show up a whole lot. And that's okay. We need a good start here. We don't want to get too dark too quick. So now, once that is dry, we're going to take our cranberry wine and get the tiniest little amount of black here. Teeny tiny little amount of black. We want to darken up our cranberry wine. Get a little bit of black at a time because you don't want this to turn completely black. We just want to darken up that cranberry wine. Make it a little bit more opaque is what we're doing. And we'll repeat. And one place I forgot to go. Go on this back edge back here. Just mixing a little bit more on my brush. One place I forgot to go was down in here. You want to do that with the cranberry wine first, because that's a little bit dark. Alright, and every place that we put it before, we're going to put it again. Just mixing up a little bit more. Don't get too much black. Go along this front edge a little bit. And back here at the base of that little tuft there. And I think that's all we're going to do here. So that's all we're going to do for shading. We're going to get ready to do some highlights on here now. We can always come back and deepen that shading, but for now we're going to leave it and see if we need to deepen it later. We're going to highlight with Cad Orange. On the brightest parts of the hat. On here, not too much back there. That's kind of the darkest area. Put a little bit up here. And see if there's any place else you want a little bit of highlight. I might come back and paint our white stripes in. I haven't decided yet. I don't want them changing color, so right now they don't look too white. Okay, I'm going to go back and deepen my shading in a couple of places. I'm mixing some on my brush. A little bit of that black. I really want this darker back here. And down here. Darker along next to the snowman to kind of make the snowman is over the scarf instead of the scarf over the snowman, if you know what I mean. Like his chin is coming over the scarf instead of the scarf going up over his chin. Oops, wrong side. And along this inside part. And that looks much better. I like that darker shading on there. Let's go with a little bit of white and cat orange. I'm just going to mix equal amounts, I think, here. And just a bright little highlight on here. On this edge. Mix a little bit more. Oops. Probably like to be on camera, wouldn't you? Probably just a yelling and a yelling, and I was just ignoring you. Do a final little bright highlight with white, I think. Okay, I really don't want my stripes to be white, other colors. So I'm going to put them back in. If you don't mind them being tinted, then you don't have to. I think I'm just going to brighten up a few of them. Keep them looking white, because it's going to be hard for me to go back over those lines. Not doing a very good job here at all. So maybe I'll just not do it. These stripes over here definitely need a little bit of white back on them. Keep it in the center. Let me try and do these again. Okay. A lot of paint. Just darkening, because it wasn't really liking how it was looking. I'll probably use the green, the night green, to darken your red if you are getting too much black. Alright, I'm going to darken back here on the snowman one more time because I want to put some fringe on our snowman. I'm just going to use some straight deep midnight blue. Work it into your brush with some water so it won't be such hard paint. A little bit right in that corner. And a bit under here. Alright, that's deep midnight blue. Okay, that looks good. I like that. Alright, so let's transfer on our lines for our snowman now. Okay, let's add our fringe on out here. We'll do red and white for our fringe. Let our red dry before we add our white because we don't want it to turn pink. Okay, we are going to do some base coats on here. Of course, we're going to make his gloves red to match his hat, and his carrot nose will be cad orange, and then his eyes, mouth, and buttons will be lamp black. Okay, so actually we haven't highlighted him yet, and I want to highlight him before I paint all that stuff in. So all those lines I put on there I'm going to end up erasing, but I'll put them back on. This is Snow White, and we want our snowman to be white. Also on his face, white. And it's okay if it's choppy. Don't stress out about that. He is a snowman after all. He's probably been packed with somebody's hands made him. We're going to come back and repeat that highlight on there. Okay, I got the rest of my base coats on my snowman here. The gloves we painted in with the Santa red, lamp black for the buttons, the eyes, and the mouth, and cadmium orange for the nose. Let me erase some of my graphite lines here. Okay, so now we're going to put the stripes on the gloves so we can get those drying. And then we'll do a little bit of shading on them. Our white. And our arms we painted in with burnt umber and a little mix of black with it to get like a soft black color. A little bit darker on those. And I really want these other ones over here to stand out a bit more. Now if your red, after you shade it, if your red gets too, like you've lost the color a little bit, you can wash over your red and maybe do your re-striping here after you do that. Okay, the ones up on the hat look fine. Let's put some lines on our carrot nose while we got this brush. And we're going to do that with some burnt umber. Maybe not quite that fat. Your carrot nose, you might want to mix a little moon yellow in with the very first coat of it because it's not going to cover that blue very well. I'm going to mix a tiny bit of black in with that to get a darker brown color because it is not showing up. So just a few little lines on there, and then we're going to paint the eyebrows in with this brush as well. Okay, we'll let that dry a little bit. Let's add a little bit of color onto the cheeks. So if you've got a small little scruffy brush, let's use that. We'll use it dry, load some paint onto it, and go to a dry paper towel and remove pretty much all the paint. We just want to rouge the cheeks. So we're going to remove as much of the paint as possible. We're just going to come in here very, very softly, circular motion, start laying in just a little bit of color. Don't push real hard or you're going to get really dark marks on there. You want to keep this very soft and delicate and light. So the lightest pressure that you can use is the best. I think that looks pretty good. That's a cute cheek. I like that. Okay, let's do some shading on our gloves here. Let me erase my lines first so I didn't cover up. This is cranberry wine up on the very tippy toe of this brush. I'm just going to go ahead and darken that just slightly. this edge on this glove. And then back here and down at the bottom on this one. I'm going to keep it pretty light here. I don't want to get as dark as I got on my scarf. I feel like my gloves are much brighter than my scarf, and I like my gloves better. So I'm going to take my small round brush and stroke some of the red back in between here. And get my hat a little bit more on the red side. And down here, this is how you can adjust your colors if you get them a little bit out of control, like I did. I'm going to try and stay off of the highlighted areas. And just a little bit in between, that's all we need. This will help brighten our scarf back up. This one here. Oops. Let's stay off of the white. I'm just putting it in the center in between the lines. I need to bring some of that red back in there. Make it a little bit brighter. Okay, and I'm just going to highlight on the gloves with some white, just a little bit on the outer edges. Where a little bit of light might be hitting it. Oop, I'd like to be on camera there for that, wouldn't you? Alright, let's do this glove. Okay, that looks good enough. Let's put our little tassels on this one. Our white tassels. With some snow white. Don't cover up all your red. You want to still see that. Alright, well, we got this white. We'll highlight on the eye, and a little dot on the mouth, and a little bit on our buttons. Oh, this will be on the right side. And then we're going to add a little bit of turquoise blue, or desert turquoise, on the shaded side. This is a color we put in the background so we can bring this in here. Okay, so for our arms here, we've got them burnt umber. So I'm going to take my burnt umber and mix a little bit of black with it, a little bit more black than I mixed with it for basing in the arms. And we'll just add, his arm should be farther over into that glove, I think. Add a little bit of this. At the ends here. Just kind of tap it in. Don't try to worry too much about how it looks. It just needs a little bit there. Now we're going to mix some burnt umber and some white. Mostly burnt umber with just a little bit of white so we can streak some texture in the arms. And then you can add a little bit more white on there. And get a little bit brighter. Just some small details. Don't need to be really, really dark with any of that. Okay, let's finish out our nose. And we're going to shade along the bottom of it with some burnt umber. You don't need much water at all in your brush here. I'm going to do along the bottom and I think at the back here. Darken that up. We're going to let that dry. While that is drying, we're going to take a small little float of deep midnight blue, so not very much paint on your brush at all, and we'll go around the eyes. Okay, a little shadow around the eyes and the mouth. Keep this on the left side here. We can go around the nose. A little bit under the eyebrows. This is pretty much straight paint because it is such a transparent paint. Go beside the buttons. I'm using an 8 flat, but you could go to a 6. Would be fine. Just touching up some little darker areas here. And we can go a little bit around our glove here. Try and create a little bit of a shadow there. good. Let's highlight on our nose, our carrot nose, with some bright yellow, no, yellow light. Oops, carrot nose. Forgot what I was highlighting. I'm going to mix a little bit of white in with that. Wash a little bit of red, just a tiny bit on there. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of white and just touch a little bit in between the buttons back here. And a little bit here. Let me erase some chalk lines here. I think our snowman is looking cute as can be. I love it. Okay, so a little bit on this tree out here. I think I'm going to make a wash of the winter blue, or the deep midnight blue. It's mostly water, just tint it and put a little bit out here on this dark edge of the trees. You could also do the same thing with the evergreen. It wasn't evergreen, it was midnight green. Midnight green is what we used. Mostly water. And tap a little bit of that in here. Just get a few of those darker areas back in there. I think that looks good. I really want to brighten my trees just a little bit. We're going to get ready to go to the snow here in a second, because I think our snowman is pretty much done. Except for adding the glow from the moon on it. Just a tiny bit darker underneath that hat band. I think that will help. Okay, a little bit of white on our tree. I just want to make some brighter areas on here. And everything's kind of faded back down in there now. Okay, and a few brighter ones here. Remember, load your brush and then remove most of it. You don't want it, when you're getting your brightest highlights, you don't want to do too much. Do this little tree here. It don't need a whole lot. It looks pretty good. And then out here. You'll have straight paint on your brush. You're not going to having watery paint, because then it'll just fade into the design and you won't see any of it. Okay, wide angle out just a little bit because I think that will help. Oh, it's looking so cute. All right, let's work a little bit on our snow down here. Okay, I want to brighten a little bit of the white, so I'm going to side load a smaller flat brush. This is a 12. We did most of it with like a, besides we used 3/4 inch, so we don't need to be that big this time. And I want to put some snow, some brighter snow. Just kind of streak it through here, down the center. And just side load it here. We can work a little bit of this around our trees, just a scooch. And load some more. Bit around our snowman here. A little bit of fluffy stuff kind of going on around him. I just have it side loaded and I'm just taking that edge of the brush and tapping around a little bit back here. Not too much. Just a little bit through here by that tree. And let's put a little bit around this tree. Just kind of pile it up underneath the tree a little bit. Oop, focus, there we go. So just a side load like we're going to float is all we're doing. A little bit brighter through here and here. And we'll kind of pile some up here on this little heel. Not too bright out there because it's more in the shadows. Let's get a little bit of a highlight here. I'm going to bring some of this down a little bit and then we'll get a little bit of a highlight going here. To be a little bit more mounded right there. And a little bit more. Around our snowman here. Take what's on my brush and go streak it through, and then more here. So I'm just kind of repeating after it all dries, just to brighten it. think before I make a little bit more bigger piles on there, I'm going to float a little bit of my deep midnight blue back behind here. And get a little bit more shadowy stuff going on back there. And clean up a little bit. Here. Maybe a little bit here. Just wherever you want to create some little darker areas. Maybe within our little snow hills that we made, we can make a little bit of shadows in there. And around our snowman, we can kind of add some darker areas. Just a tiny little side load on here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I like that. So back here to this hill, I want to make a little bit of mounding on it like I did next to that tree. So make it look like there's a bigger pile of snow here. Just a side load. Then just kind of tap and turn your brush from side to side and move it around. Not too much out there. Bring it down just a tiny bit. Do the same over here. It's just a little tapping motion on there. There's not a lot of paint or water. And you can stipple this on if you prefer to have your snow stipply. And that's giving it a nice little texture on there, I think. Maybe a little bit out here. Create just a little bit of mound of snow out here. And over here. Just a pitty pat. Okay, we've got some nice snow going on here. And we'll do a little bit more shading on some of these that we just put on here. Give them a little bit of depth with that deep midnight blue. So maybe a little bit back here. Just create some little shadowy areas. You don't have to do very much. Let's do just a little bit back here. Alright, I think we're looking pretty good here. You can do as little or as much snow as you would like on yours, so you get to be the judge of that. So if you just liked the streaky look like we did, you can just keep it that way and just put a little bit of snow next to some of your trees. So you don't have to make as many mounds as I did on here. Okay, so now we want to create some glow from the moon on our snow. Okay, I decided I did want a little bit of stippling on my snowman, so I'm just using a scruffy brush. If you have like a deerfoot brush, that would be good. Mine is packed away, so this is a 1/4 inch low cornell stippler. It's not super stiff, but I'm just going to stipple a little bit of snow in here. Like some loose, this is like some loose snow laying around. Just a little bit of paint on your brush, tap onto your paper towel. We're using this brush dry. And tap onto your paper towel and remove some before you go to your piece. Very lightly tap. And you can do all of your snow by stippling if you want. After you've done the smooth layer, you can out here. I'm about ready to run out of paint, so I'm not laying a whole bunch down, which is good because that's the shadowy area. That looks much better, having a little bit of bright snow laying here and there. It makes our snow look a little fluffier. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to wipe my brush off after I've done that stippling. I don't want to wash it because I'm going to use it to add a little bit of glow on here. Okay, we're going to create a little bit of glow from that moon with some of our bright yellow, and I'm going to just create a little side load wash. So I'll thin a little bit of paint, I'll clean my brush out, and then I'll just side load a little bit of that very sheer color that I just made. And we're going to put a little bit of it on him. I think I'm just going to use this same little wash of color to float a glow of that. And we want to put a little bit of glow of this on our trees. Put a little bit on this tree. A little bit on this one. This will need to be just a touch darker. And then a little bit more on our snow. Let it kind of bounce off of everything. Just want to see a little bit more of that yellow glow. Alright, let me zoom out just a scooch so we can see that. I think I'm going to add a little bit of antique gold for my glow. On my snow, create that sheer color. Just a little bit. I think it gives just a little bit more of a golden light. And we can just put it right over that yellow. We don't have to completely cover up that yellow either. Just a little bit darker back here where the snow is closest to the moon. This will, ooh, that was a lot of paint. Alright, we're going to splatter a little bit of snow on here. And then I think we're going to call this a done one. when you do your yellow along here, you want to try and stay off of your buttons and everything. Keep them bright. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Alright, let's get ready to spatter on some snow. Okay, real quick, before we spatter, I gotta bling it up. So we're gonna take some of our glamour dust and we're gonna put it on our trees. I'm just gonna use my filbert brush that I tapped the tree in with, and I'm just gonna tap it on here. We don't want to solidly cover it. We just want to get a little bit of the sparkle on here. So just tap a nice random little layer. We're getting a little bit of sparkle on our trees there, and you can do that as many times as you want. I like to do it at least 2 times. And then we're also just going to tap some of this or brush it on, whichever you like, for our snow. A little bit of sparkle back here. Put a little bit of sparkle on our snowman. I don't have very much left on my brush, so I'm just kind of scrubbing it onto him, giving him a little bit of sparkling up. And like I said, you can do this as many times as you want to. To me, you cannot have too much bling on a winter scene. So I'm going to put another small little quick layer on here. Maybe keep it more on the highlighted sections this time. Although this tree is all highlighted, so it can go anywhere on this one. And then this one will stay more on this side. So much fun. I love my blingy bling. My blingy bling sparkle. And right through there we want, you know, because the light is hitting on the snow, and when the light hits the snow it always has a lot of sparkle in it. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. So now we can spatter it. You don't have to spatter it if you're not a spattering person. You can just put some stars up in the sky. But I'm going to spatter. So I'm going to take my, this is a filbert rake. It's a 1/2 inch size. And thin my paint down just a little bit with some water. See if it's going to tap off okay. And I don't need tons of snow, so I'm just going to wipe it off of my topper. Don't want it on there. If you get your paint too thin, it's going to fade back into your design. And you can leave it off of your Santa and your moon, off of your snowman. Like I got a super bright one right there, so I'm going to take that off right there. Just use a damp brush and remove those that you don't want. And I think I'll keep my Santa and the reindeer more on the black side. And then just a little bit more. Oops, aren't we? Got my paint. There you go, there you have it. That is a done piece. And I'm very happy with how it turned out. So on the back side, you'll want to do your topper like the front. And then on the back side you can just do a like Merry Christmas, a big stencil that says Merry Christmas. Okay, one thing I forgot to add on here is I want to make like some little magic dust coming from underneath the reindeer and Santa, so I'm just tapping in some white underneath here. Just some straight white paint. Snow White. Just little dip dabs. I'm going to make it a little bit wider down here. And then we are going to get a scruffy brush here. We've got a fairly stiff brush here. And we're going to take our white paint, load our brush up, and then kind of offload. We want to be able to kind of stipple and rub at the same time. So I'm going to lightly stipple where we put that white. And you could just stipple the whole thing instead of adding little dabs of white paint. Okay, now I'm going to try and remove as much of the paint off of it as I can and just kind of dry brush a little bit. Very gently. Very, very gently. Alright, now we need our glamour dust to put on there. Just a little bit of that white that's left in my brush. Okay, now I'm going to just go right into my glamour dust with the same brush and kind of work a little bit into the brush. And then tap it on here. We want the magic dust. Christmas magic. You can put on as many coats of this as you want. Get our sparkle on there. It's still wet, so it's not going to show the bling as much. But oh, look at that sparkle on the snowman that we brushed on there earlier. Oh, oh, oh. I just love it. Alright, so just finish. This is the last step here. As much blingy bling on there as you want. And you could even brush some bling over Santa if you wanted to, if you wanted that to sparkle up, and I think I just might do that. Or you can just leave him just plain black. Just a little bit. This is all the Christmas magic right here. Okay, we got our Christmas magic going on. A wide angle out. Oh, I think that looks great. I love it. Alright, that's a finished project. Thanks so much, everyone. Like me on my YouTube channel. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. Pass on my videos. Share them. Leave comments. I love and appreciate every one of you. Thanks so much for painting with me, you guys. I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.